Hello people, just please excuse the bad sound in some places. And I want you to notice how Mr. Green, even though he's under threat for repossession, is always turning his attention to Holy Greg. He won't rest. Mr. Green will never rest until there's justice for Holy. He's totally committed. He won't give up. And we are with him. We won't give up until there's justice for Holy Greg.
Good morning, Mr. Green.
Good morning.
So we come to see you,
Good.
see how you're doing,
Yes.
learn all about the situation.
Yes, I'm still here.
You know, there's loads of people worried about you.
Yes, well, that's very kind of them to do that. Obviously, it's been a difficult few days, but things changed quite dramatically yesterday.
Okay.
I think most people who look at it will know that I was served with a notice, or a supposed notice, although it was an uttering in legal terms. It bore no weight whatsoever, from the bailiffs in Salford, for £32,000 to pay to elish Angiolini in a case that we consider was abandoned on the 24th of December 2014. I took a bit of advice on this. The bailiffs did not, the form that they sent was as an uttering. Didn't mean anything at all in legal terms, and they failed to produce a court document, a court order, as they should have done. So yesterday morning I went round to the bailiffs and under pressure managed to get a copy of the order, which was dated the 11th of October to the High Court, of which I knew nothing. Right? The people who are dealing with this are not Mrs. Angiolini's solicitors, as one would expect, but the Scottish Government.
Okay.
Why the Scottish Government are involved in a civil case was something of a mystery. But the solicitor concerned was working for the Legal Directorate in Edinburgh, and her name was Shona Bathgate. It took me quite a few days to actually get to speak to her, but in the end I did, and I asked her what all this was about. I explained the background to the case, and that we have, certainly since the hearing itself, or the decision itself of the court, we have got the evidence from the Scottish Government itself to show that elish Angiolini was making a false statement before the court in order to influence the judgment. And also there has been the formal investigation by Audit Scotland that has revealed that elish Angiolini, in this civil case as the pursuer, was secretly granted funds, unlimited funds, from the United Kingdom taxpayer, not the Scottish taxpayer, the United Kingdom taxpayer. Which was kept from me, and I in turn was refused any legal aid whatsoever. Clearly the case was, on equitable grounds, was nonsense, and that will be pursued through the European Courts of Justice in the near future, I'm expecting, having taken some formal legal advice. Nevertheless, the situation as it arose yesterday required that we find out exactly what had gone on, because in my view the Scottish Government have no place in this case whatsoever. It's nothing to do with it. It is a civil case. So, to cut a long story short, Shona Bathgate, to my surprise, suddenly revealed, when I pressed her as to who had instructed her to take this action against me, stated it was the Crown Office. Yes, the Crown Office. I said, which individual at the Crown Office? Who is it? Who
I thought they're supposed to be impartial.
Well, no, it's worse than that, actually. The Crown Office have nothing to do with civil cases whatsoever, and I'm going to read you in a moment. If you can bear with me just a second, just do a little bit of stuffing.
There's no rush, take your time.
I'll get the document and I'll read it from you. Anyway, the Shona Bathgate stated this quite categorically and repeated it, and she refused to give me the name of the person, which I could not understand. I didn't understand why she would refuse the name of the individual who had instructed her if there was nothing to hide. If everything was above board, why would she not reveal the identity of the person who had instructed her to cause alarm and distress to me and a considerable amount of harassment? She wouldn't do that. Anyway, of course, what was the case was that we actually had a document from the Crown Office actually formally stating that the Crown Office have nothing whatsoever to do with civil cases. This means very seriously, if somebody acting in the Crown Office is acting in this way, then it is likely to be unlawful and possibly of a criminal nature. If you have just a second, I have to get...
Yeah, of course,
I'll just get you a little document to show you.
On your way.
This is the document.
Let's have a look.
If you can focus on the third paragraph there,
Okay.
and I will read it for those who just want to have,
You have
the words
referred to...
Yes, this one. This is the third paragraph.
Oh, they're both.
Now, just before I read this, I would actually just say to you that I told the Spathgate that we had this document, in which she became somewhat agitated and said that, oh, well, I'm doing it because the Crown Office aren't supposed to do it. But quite clearly, I said, you're acting on their behalf. How can they not be involved? She became more and more nervous, and the call ended shortly after that. But quite clearly, when she made her statement, she was unaware of this letter and its content. Just for those listening in who perhaps haven't just read it, this is what the letter says. It was issued by the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service on the 19th of November 2014, and it was written by Mr. Stephen McGowan, Procurator Fiscal, Major Crime and Fatalities Investigation. And within the context of the letter to me, this is what he had to say. You also raised a number of issues about the civil case involving you and Dame Elish Angiolini. As you will be aware, the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service, COPS, has responsibility for the investigation and prosecution of crime in Scotland. Civil cases are out with the scope of the work of the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service. It would therefore not be fitting for me to comment to a third party about this letter. So there we have it. The Crown Office interfering in a case in which they have no right to interfere in.
All in black and white.
Against it, all in black and white. This is very serious indeed. Also, it must be remembered that the Scottish Government, the Scottish departments, are acting under the instruction of the Chief Civil Servant, Ms. Leslie Evans, who is at the present time concealing correspondence between elish Angiolini and Sir Peter Housden, the former head of the Civil Service in Scotland. This is important because it was revealed by Audit Scotland that the money that elish Angiolini received, your money, ladies and gentlemen, UK taxpayers' monies, was authorised by Sir Peter Housden to Angiolini in order to pursue me, in order to silence me. Then, so from that point, we needed to know what correspondence had elapsed between Angiolini and Sir Peter, because obviously something would need to have been in writing in order to convince Sir Peter Housden that elish Angiolini was telling the truth about the alleged defamation that she alleged against me.
Yeah.
And the defamation, for those who are not aware of it, was based on the fact that Angiolini accused me of wrongfully accusing her of covering up the Holly Gregg case. Now, of course, thanks to evidence from Kathleen Harper QC, from Kenny McCaskill, the former Justice Secretary, and from the Scottish Government's Crime Directorate, we have that information to show that elish Angiolini was indeed falsely making statements. We also, of course, had earlier documents when she was in the role of Procurator Fiscal from Brian Adam MSP, letters dated the 27th of October 2000 and 28th November 2000, and a letter from elish Angiolini herself to Holly's mother's solicitor dated the 12th of July 2001. This is a case in which elish Angiolini has repeatedly stated that she is not involved. If I may, I just read another document just illustrating this. There are others, but I will. This is from the document sent again by Mr. Stephen McGowan at the Crown Office to Anne Gregg, Holly's mother, dated the 4th of December 2009. This is what it says. During the course of this investigation, it's been alleged by others that the Lord Advocate, as she was at that time, elish Angiolini QC, had in some way covered up Holly's allegations. These allegations are unfounded, and this has been supported by a careful scrutiny of the case. All key conditions in relation to the prosecution in Holly's case in 2000 and 2001 was taken before or after the Lord Advocate's time as Regional Procurator Fiscal in Grampian, and were taken by other senior prosecutors, not the Lord Advocate. In addition, the Lord Advocate has not had any involvement in the recent decision by Crown Counsel that there should be no criminal proceedings. That is entirely wrong, and I may have the document here, I may not, but so I wasn't just prepared for this. Oh yes, I have got it in front of me as it happens. Now, we just heard that. That was a court document, by the way.
Yes.
On the basis of the last document I read to you, that was the basis for us to cite elish Angiolini to appear for the defence at my initial trial. A request that was refused by elish Angiolini. She was not prepared to face the court on oath. And she was allowed not to come by the judge, Sheriff Principal Edward Bowen, who later turned out to have had a 10-year business relationship with her, which he refused to reveal to the court.
What kind of business was that, please?
It was in the Northern Lighthouse organisation. They do different things, but they do have a commercial arm, so they are counted as a business.
Okay.
In fact, they resigned within 24 hours of each other on the 5th and 6th of May 2011. Here is the question. Here is the letter from the Scottish Government, the Criminal Law and Licensing Division, dated the 6th of August 2014, and to me. And this is what they said. I should say, first of all, that David Scott, who's been absolutely marvellous in this case, as many of you will know, asked the Cabinet Secretary a question at a public meeting on the 28th of April 2014 about his involvement or what he knew about the Holly Gray case. And this is what the letter says. I understand that Mr. Scott in the audience asked the Cabinet Secretary a question about the Holly Gray case. In answering the question, the Cabinet Secretary made clear that the allegations Mr. Scott referred to were investigated by Grampian Police and reviewed by the Lord Advocate, Dame elish Angiolini, and were found to be false. So there it is. There's the Scottish Government themselves totally contradicting what was in an earlier letter. And elish Angiolini has repeatedly stated that she had nothing to do with, including another letter that we have to the Press Complaints Commission, again stating that she had absolutely no involvement in the case. It was a downright lie.
A lie, all the way.
That's right, a lie and perjury. So that is the situation. You will actually notice there that she said they were false, the allegations were false. Well, of course, as I think anybody following the case knows, we have much independent expert witness evidence from such luminaries as Dr. Jack Boyle, Dr. Eva Harding, from the police themselves, Grampian Police themselves, relied Holly as a reliable witness and believed that they had in writing that she has been a victim of sexual abuse, and even named some of the people involved. So for elish Angiolini to come forward and say they are false was complete nonsense. And of course, I think it's also important to state that Holly was granted a sum of money from the Criminal Injuries Compensation Authority on the basis of the strength of the expert witness evidence provided to support the fact that she had indeed been a victim of sexual abuse. But the Scottish Government, of course, want to close this down. They've always wanted to close this down at all costs. We have a situation where, as many people would know, the Scottish Cabinet, the entire Scottish Cabinet, on the 26th of May 2011, were found to have breached sections 10.1 and 21.1 of the Freedom of Information Scotland Act in trying to conceal or failing to respond to questions about their role in the Holly Gray case. And on the 11th of July 2011, came within 24 hours of facing criminal charges of contempt of court.
We heard Mr. Green, after your latest experience
Yes.
in Scotland,
Yes.
that you were banned on talking about Holly Gregg.
Ah.
Are you taking any risks
No, I'm taking no
in doing
risks.
this today?
No, I'm taking no risks whatsoever because that was false. I was informed in 2014 when I was released on community service that I should never, from my legal advisor, that I should never ever mention Holly Gregg anywhere in the world for the rest of my life on the risk of being arrested and put in prison for 5 years. So I thought it was a little bit extreme. However, my MP, David Mowat, and the QC who was helping me in this country, both wrote to the Scottish authorities for confirmation of this, because we had nothing in writing. And after 6 months and delay, we finally received a confirmation that had never been in the conditions placed upon me. It was a lie, it was a bluff to silence me, which didn't come off.
Good.
So another lie from the Scottish Government, who are so corrupt it is not believable.
The truth will come out.
Well, we hope it will come out. We're close to it now, I think. They've made so many mistakes, and so things are almost sort of a criminal nature, certainly as far as elish angiolini is concerned. But lots of progress has been made. My team have also been in touch with, curiously enough, Donald Trump. And of course, the interest with Donald Trump is that, of course, he's part Scottish. He's got a great interest in Scotland.
Of course.
Scotland.
His mother was Scottish.
And who are the two people in Scotland who I'm sure he detests more than anyone else? Alex Salmond and Nicola Sturgeon.
Is that
two
right?
Two people who have vilified him at every turn. Mm-hmm. And, of course, what Mr. Trump did not know, that the two of them, have both broken the law over trying to cover up the rape of a disabled girl.
Ooh.
Now he does know. And the other handy thing is that when I first stood for Parliament, when I was first arrested, I got excellent cooperation from UKIP, who withdrew their candidate in order to help me.
Yes.
And due to one of a UKIP supporter wrote a letter to Mr. Farage, and Mr. Farage replied that he offered his full support to me in my efforts to seek justice. And that letter has gone to Mr. Trump. So
that's good news.
The Scottish Government have made mistakes, serious mistakes, in covering up terrible crimes, atrocities that would make you feel sick if I gave you the full details of them. They are so bad.
Have you calculated your loss, as in, like, your time in jail, the business you lost, the time you spent? Have you calculated that? If you were to prosecute somebody, and if that was a Scottish state, be it that, how much would you do them for?
Oh, George, I really don't know. It's almost incalculable. That is not important to me.
No.
The important is that children like Holly Gregg are protected. The financial side is enormous. It's incalculable, but I don't even think...
I was thinking that if you were successful in a civil case, bringing a civil case for your loss,
yes,
then, and you were like, you won that case,
yes,
then you would Holly Gregg's case would be justified as well through it.
Well, it would, yes. So, but there are lots of things that are sort of on the table at the moment we have to consider. But I think we have demonstrated that the Scottish hierarchy are in very serious trouble over this, without a question of a doubt. They have lied, they have made false statements, they have done all kinds of things in order to persecute me and silence me, as they have done to Holly and her mother, who've seen the most cruel behaviour imaginable against them, for standing up. And it must be remembered that there are plenty of other cases where this is happening at the present time, including, I would add, the Doherty case. And
yes.
I invite people if they don't know about it, to look it up.
No.
Brian Doherty and family, and check out the Doherty files, because that is yet another example, again in Aberdeenshire, where Holly was abused. So, but as I say, when we talk about money, I don't think about it. But really, all I want is for the children of Scotland to be protected.
No, I'm not saying that you would do that. I was just thinking that through this,
Yes.
there might be consequences.
Yes, I realise that's
a domino
a
effect,
tactic or a device to open it up. But I'm hoping that things will take a positive turn before we get to that point.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But
So specifically now for the bailiffs, because we were all very worried about you.
Yes.
When we heard on UK Column
Yes.
that there was bailiffs coming to do you in today.
Well, they were supposed to be coming today. There is a delay. Officially, there is a delay until next week. But that, I think, has come about because of the revelations that we have received from Shona Bathgate, which show matters to be very, very serious indeed, and will take quite a lot of resolution before, I believe, anything.
Well, that's not official. You haven't heard anything official. It's just like you're just guessing.
Yeah. So I'm just guessing, but I think that we should be all right. But we have to be very vigilant because, quite clearly, this has got nothing to do with money. This has got nothing to do with money. This is malice.
It's persecution.
It's malice because I have exposed Mr. Salmond, exposed Mr. Sturgeon, I've exposed other members of the Scottish Government, and I've exposed the position of the Lord Advocate. And
You're being bullied by a big bully, which is called state.
yes. A state which I think at the present time under the SNP, and I'm not the first to say this, is effectively a fascist-style state.
Yeah, that's true.
All justice has been abandoned. And I would like to make the point to those of you who are watching, who are perhaps in Scotland and are nationalists, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the national question at all. You have a party, the SNP, who want total control. That is what they want. The independence issue, in my opinion, is something of a bluff, a front. What they want is total power. Total power over the judiciary, total power over the police, total power over the civil service, total power over the media, and total power over the children of Scotland.
The children.
As was so blatantly shown in the Named Persons Act, which was stopped because of the courage of some very, very fine and committed people.
Thank God for that.
Yes.
Yes, they're always going after the children because we're too old.
Yes.
We'll die soon. Yes. They want the children for their future.
Yes, they
of course.
Do. And they want to control the parents through the children, to spying on the children, which was clearly part of the odious and abominable named person.
This is Stasi state developed to very last.
Yes. One thing I have no doubt about, if the people of Scotland learned the truth about what the SNP leadership have been involved in, Mr. Salmond and Mr. Sturgeon, Deputy Leader John Swinney and others, if they learned the truth, they would be out of office in very short time, because they have betrayed the genuine aspirations of those people who believe Scotland should be an independent country. It is a scandal that this has been covered up. And I just take you back to to July 2011, when the entire cabinet came within 24 hours of facing criminal charges to do with the rape of a disabled girl. And not one major broadcaster or media people in Scotland actually mentioned that story. Now, can you imagine if that happened in England, and let's, for example, Mrs. May and her cabinet were facing 24 hours of facing criminal charges? Every single broadcaster in the country, every paper, it would be front page news in Scotland, and nothing. So the SNP have been voted in on a number of occasions, even though this vital information has been concealed from the Scottish electorate. They have been tricked, they have been betrayed. And I hope that when they find out the full truth, and I'm sure that they will, then appropriate action will be taken. Because Scotland is a wonderful country full of thoroughly decent, highly talented people, brave people. They will not put up with this for one moment once the truth is revealed to them.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, is that all? Are you
That's it for the moment. Yes.
You're going to play a song for your supporters?
No, I
Not
don't
now.
Not today. We won't want today.
Another day.
I'm not in my showbiz clothes today.
Well, okay.
So.
Cheers,
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Thank you.